Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the Planet Elevate AI podcast. It's with myself, Imran Kadri. I'm your host today, where we dive into how AI is shaping industries, transforming businesses, and creating new possibilities. And today's topic is the next chapter in AI with our special guest, David Berg. Welcome on board, David.
Thank you, Imran. Good to be on. Excited to be here.
Perfect. Great to have you. Today's guest is someone who embodies innovation at the intersection of blue-collar grit and cutting-edge AI. David Berg, CEO and founder of Commander AI, didn't come from a traditional tech background. He spent 4 years on the road driving trucks and working directly with haulers across the country. His first-hand understanding of their pain points led him to build a transformative AI solution for a sector that's often overlooked, logistics and hauling. David, it's a real pleasure to have you here. Thanks for joining us again. David, before we dive in, could you introduce yourself in your own words and tell our listeners a bit about your journey from behind the wheel to leading an AI startup?
Yes, absolutely. So for those of you, as Imran introduced very nicely, my name is David Berg, founder and CEO of Commander AI. Prior to that, I worked at a trucking company called Battle Motors. We were manufacturing heavy-duty vehicles based out of Ohio in the United States and selling to these waste haulers, the companies that pick up your garbage either at your business or place of living. And so in dealing with these companies, saw an opportunity, one, that they weren't using technology across the board, very outdated industry, pen and paper, old school methodologies like door-to-door sales. And so being in the industry for 4 years, as Imran alluded to, driving trucks quite literally across the country, saw an opportunity to bring the best in AI technology into an industry that's never used it before. And so that's what led to the inception of Commander AI. Happy to dive into it on this podcast, but excited to be here.
So just a few questions to start off with in terms of understanding you in a bit more detail, David. You might have touched on this a few minutes ago. What inspired you to transition from working directly in the field to founding Commander AI?
Yeah, from a very young age, I was inspired by, great thinkers and people manifesting and creating great things. And so although as a young 20-year-old, it was exciting to be around, heavy duty equipment and being part of something of that sort. I was always had a desire to do something greater. And so didn't know it would translate to being a founder and CEO. But when I was in the industry itself and talking to many of my peers and colleagues and customers and seeing that they all had similar pain points across the board, I felt that I had to be the one to solve it. And so although, having the aspiration from a young age, when you're amongst pain points that you are one experiencing firsthand, but then seeing it amongst many other people, you don't really have much of a choice other than to go and build something that will solve that. So that was my gut feeling and what led to the inception of the company.
Brilliant. Of course, waste management impacts everyone really to some extent. Could you just give a brief overview of some of the pain points that you explored or you experienced yourself that caused you frustration and say to yourself, I think we need a solution to this?
Totally. Everything from the way that trash is picked up to the way that trucks were delivered to the bookkeeping to the billing to the dispatching. I saw that all of it was on these old school notebooks with different sort of lines that were drawn through them and numbers that were hard to keep track of. And it led to inefficient pickups. Customers complain. People are waiting for 3 weeks with trash left outside their doorstep. And so realized that that was all just a lack of technology. And with very basic technology, there was an opportunity, one, to solve those pain points, but secondly, to do it in a faster and more efficient manner. And so in firsthand, as a salesperson, selling these trucks, we had no internal sales tooling. We had no technology. And so I had, as opposed to maybe other industries or other organizations where you're behind a computer, dealing on the phone with the emails, I was out in the field. And although it was fun initially, you're traveling across the country, at a certain point, driving in a garbage truck from customer to customer, hoping somebody will buy your equipment becomes tiring and inefficient. And so that was really the turning point for me. I'd done this for 4 years. I maybe was on 600 different flights, drove thousands of miles in trucks and felt I had to do something different.
Wow. Fascinating. Really brilliant. That's really good to hear. And that leads us on to nicely to talk about what shaped your leadership style and product development at Commander AI.
Yeah. So I say this to all, junior founders and people looking to start companies. You have to find a good mentor. And so my mentor was and is still the founder and CEO of Battle Motors. So his name's Mike Patterson. Like me, our birthdays are a couple of days apart. He basically taught me everything I know from a business acumen perspective, how to run an organization. He built multiple companies. One of them went public on the NASDAQ. He's now built a few $100 million company known as Battle Motors. And the one thing that he said is put good people around you and you'll get the answers to pretty much everything that you need. And so, in building this company, the first step is, hey, who's going to build the technology? I don't have a technical background. So I found the best CTO and now a good friend of mine, Sean Tanu. And then secondly is hiring the right employees. And so when we built this team, and all of my employees are in their 20s and 30s, I think that when you're looking for the right employee, experience isn't necessarily the first thing that you should look for. but character and drive. And so I've hired on that basis through and through, maybe people that didn't have the skill set necessary to perform the role that we were hiring for, but with enough tenacity and grit, they were able to figure out. So to summarize, finding the right mentor at a very young age is probably the best thing you can do as a first-time founder.
You talked about a couple of key personalities that you've been surrounded by in your organization.
So the leadership team spans just between myself and Sean, our CTO. On the flip side of that, we have a strong list of advisors, some who come from the waste management business that have helped us drive go-to-market, former owners and operators of hauling companies, understand the product better, what are the customers looking for? And then from a sort of go-to-market and general company perspective, Sean Rad, who's the founder of Tinder, is also on our board of advisors. And he's been just, I mean, Tinder is one of the greatest companies ever built. He's been one of the, most influential and valuable people to have on the team. He's helped us with product design, with hiring, with raising capital. So between those few characters, it's been a really solid team to work with.
Sounds very inspirational. Thank you so much there. We're going to move across to some questions about AI now, which is the topic of
Sure.
discussion today. So in terms of where you are now in your journey with AI, how do you define the next chapter in AI? And what excites you most about where the technology is heading?
Totally. So I think, and I'm sure our listeners are probably familiar with this, right? People are using, open source LLMs on their free time, whether it's ChatGPT, Perplexity, and some others. For me, the most exciting thing about technology, specifically AI, is not how it's going to replace the human function, but rather optimize it. I think just like the internet came about in the early 90s, it was very influential in helping us live a more efficient life, communicate in a better manner. I think that people, for the most part, are afraid of AI replacing what they're doing and taking jobs. What we've seen with our product in our industry is that one, it's enabling people to perform in a way they never thought they could before, but more excitingly is only spend time doing the things that they want to do. So whether it's in your personal or professional life, I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll see AI picking up our garbage. We'll see AI sending out emails that we don't want to send out our emails, doing our bookkeeping, really eliminating all the things that as a human, maybe even washing your dishes one day, that we don't want to do. And then we can really spend both our professional and our, personal life spending time doing the things that we love. And so that's what excites me about AI. I'm not one of those people that are excited about AI being robots and taking over, the human experience, because again, that's what's a life worth living when, you spend time doing nothing and there's robots running around. So that's my personal take on it.
Okay. And what key messages would you give to anyone that is new, that is not afraid with AI and perhaps is interacting with AI for the first time or is getting to know about AI? What messages have you got for that particular audience?
I'd say two things. One, ask questions, right? Quite literally, when you're prompting an open source LLM, ask it questions. Don't be afraid of the responses you may or may not get. Understand that it's really just computer intelligence at the end of the day. And then secondly, also, if you're in the founding world or you're in the startup world, any idea that you have for a business, think to yourself, if there was a system that I could use, aka AI, to automate and expand the team and raise money, then go ahead and do that. I think people oftentimes think it's either AI or the old school methodology way of doing things across industries, across ways of doing things. And so you can do one and the same. You can operate the way that you've been operating for many years, but also leverage AI technology to increase efficiency across the board.
Perfect. Very helpful indeed. Thank you so much there. So we're talking about sales and marketing here. In the context of sales and marketing, how is Commander AI using AI to give businesses a competitive edge?
Yeah. So for our customers, especially in this industry, many of them are reliant on old school ways of selling. And so the first thing our AI does is create a sales plan for them. So it'll study their geographic location, the customers that they're currently selling to, and then build an entire potential list of prospects that they should be going after. It gives them information on who the decision makers are at those companies, why they should be talking to them, what's a selling point they can come into them with. So rather than coming to them with sort of a cold outbound approach, which has less than a 1% success rate, we're pre-qualifying these companies that already have some level of interest for our users so that when they engage with them, the likelihood of converting them to customers is much higher. Parallel to that, we created heat map functionality, which is eliminating door-to-door sales. And so users can come from the comfort of their computer and enter in search queries like, hey, show me companies in my areas that I should be selling to. And our AI will go ahead and identify all those companies in those service areas. And so instead of driving around in a pickup truck and knocking on businesses, you can do it with one click of a button from your home or computer.
Really good. Okay, so what surprising insights or results you've seen since deploying AI-driven tools in your field?
I think shortening of sales cycles, right? So notoriously, sales cycles in waste management can be anywhere from 3 to 6 months, which is typical in any hardware sales. The reason being is not because of the relationship or the long cycles that naturally it would take. Rather, it's just a touch point from getting in front of the right person at the company. And so oftentimes waste haulers will spend 3 to 4 months just getting a hold of the right individual, only to hear that they've already went with somebody else. And so with our AI technology, we're able to define who the right person is from the moment that you engage the company. So you either get a yes or a no. And so sales cycles, which were notoriously 3 to 6 months, are now happening in 7 to 21 days, which is unheard of in waste management over the course of 100 years.
Wow, that is so impressive. That is remarkable. Really good result there. Fantastic. Okay, so we've got one final question for you. It's more around the future now. As the CEO of your company, Commander AI, what is your vision for the future, say in 5 to 6 years' time?
We would like to completely automate all functionalities of any monotonous tasks in all legacy industries. So we're in waste management today. Next year, we'd like to enter the scrap metal industry, construction to follow. We see many parallel industries, both in the United States as well as globally, that are still outdated and are afraid to adopt technology. And so rather than just be the provider and solution for them, we want to be the educator as well. And so in a high level, that's where Commander falls over the next 5 to 10 years.
Really, really good. It sounds like you've got a really good roadmap there. Fantastic. And it sounds very exciting times ahead for your company and for yourself, David. Really, really good. It's been a really good discussion, a fascinating conversation, David. How do people get in touch with you? Where can they find you?
Yeah. So the best place, if you're in the hauling industry, if you're looking for a job at a fast growing startup, or if you're an investor, although we're not actively raising today, we're always aiming for our next round, commanderai.com. So COMMANDER.com, AI.com, or you can email me directly, David at commanderai.com. I'm active on LinkedIn as well, so feel free to connect with me there and appreciate the time. Always happy to talk.
Thank you so much. It's clear that your unique background and deep empathy for your customers has played a huge role in how you've shaped Commander AI. Thanks for sharing your vision of the next chapter in AI, especially how it applies to real-world industries that are ripe for transformation. What I've taken up from today's podcast, David, which is really inspiring, is how how the youngsters can get on board with technology and AI very, very quickly from an early age and, excel in a leadership role, be in charge of a startup organization and really develop and find success. So to our listeners, if you're enjoying these deep dives into how AI is shaping our world, don't forget to subscribe, rate and share the Planet Elevate AI podcast. Until next time, stay elevated. I'm Imran Kadri. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, Imran.